Now, one of the things that's interesting is along the way, and this is another thing that you and I know business owners struggle with. Along the way, we needed to bring different levels of competency into the business from
Correct.
like legal and structural and operational and technology. And so I would go out and hire different people. And along the way, you'd have to endure somebody all of a sudden coming in as a new boss between you and I. And that was a struggle. I'd like you to talk a little bit about your view of that at those times.
Yeah, and this is kind of the the challenge of when you look at your culture in any business, you are trying to create a community. You're trying to create an ecosystem where there is a feeling that the team truly seems to be able to nurture and engage in, that inspires them to want to succeed, right? We've always talked about success as a feeling. So Brandon from day one was very adamant that we were always communicating. Communication was so powerful. The energy in the environment was absolutely critical. And so you felt like we were one. And then when new leadership would come in based around certain cycles of the business, certain initiatives or objectives that we had, not always did that feeling resonate with the new leadership right out of the gate. And often, I think, especially for any of us that are new to a team, we come in and we want to try to manage the business. And that's where I felt like, I wasn't interested in being managed. Never in my life did I want to, have somebody manage me, dictate, or tell me what I needed to do. Maybe that's because of, me being on that, millennial cusp, right? But at the same time, I think a lot of us that believe in ourselves want to be able to be a partner, not somebody that needs to be managed. So when these individuals would come in, I would get frustrated. I would get upset, and I'd come to Brandon in more of a mindset of, woe is me, I'm irritated, I'm disappointed. How could you bring this person in when they don't respect the team, they don't understand how hard we've worked? And Brandon would always be really respectful of the individual that he brought in, as well as of my feelings, and essentially have a conversation with me around the fact that, Mason, I'm sitting in this position and I've earned this opportunity in a way to where I ask that you trust that the people that I am bringing in, I'm bringing in for the right reasons. You may not necessarily understand at this stage why maybe I brought certain individuals in, but do you trust the fact that I've demonstrated to you every step of the way that I've had your back? And I would say, yes, you have. And you'd say, well, then I need to ask that you have my back for making the decision of bringing this person in, and in return, giving them the benefit of the doubt that they want what we all want, which is for this business to succeed. So why don't you take a different approach, Mason? Why don't you go to them and ask them some questions around what their picture is, where they want to basically take this department, and then ask them what is their level of confidence that they have the tools in their toolbox to be able to get there. And if they share with you that maybe there's some gaps there, maybe there's some challenges that they don't exactly have a plan for, then ask them if you could assist them with that. Would they be willing to work more closely with you and in return partner with you on some key initiatives within this area? And I thought, all right, fair enough. He asked me to trust him. He asked me to give him the benefit of the doubt that if he hasn't steered me wrong, that this is an individual that obviously has something that they're going to bring to the table. And then he's challenged me on, have I really sat with them to understand maybe what their needs are, and in return how I can support them. And so instead of having this victim mentality, it was more of this mindset shift of now, all right, I'm going to be thinking about this, and in return, how can I do a little bit more in helping them versus expecting that they need to help me all the time.
And I would ask you, okay, so we brought this person in, let's say operations or on finance side, and I'd say to you, let me ask you a question. If we didn't bring this person in, are you capable of doing what their experience level has allowed them to succeed in? Are you capable of doing that right now? And you'd say, no. Well, no. And I'd say, so you have two choices, right? You can be upset that I brought them in, or you could be a student of what they bring to the table and learn. Because if you have bosses over the next 10 years and you become an expert in the things they're an expert in, one day if you do all the things right, you have the right attitude, you treat the people the right way, and you grow those competencies, one day you could replace any or all of those guys at the top. But if you don't learn how to do the business that they know how to do, how will you ever have the overall competency to run a total organization versus a piece of an organization?
And you also said that same breath, which I'll never forget. And you said, how are certain individuals making you feel, right? And I shared with Brandon that I'm a little frustrated in this, and I'm a little challenged with how they've approached this. And he says, that's excellent. Remember that. Because that pain you're feeling right now will shape, if you allow it, new systems in your operating platform internally to where you will always remember when you finally get into that position, the way that you feel today. And hopefully, as a result, you will be stronger and better, and then not doing that when you're in that role with others.
Yeah, I said take a journal.
All right.
And write down the attributes of the technical aspect and the cultural aspect of how these people engage. Because if you edified the best of every one of these people over the course of 5 or 10 years as you ascend in the organization, and you eliminate the things that they're doing wrong or the way they're making you feel poorly, you'll be such a well-rounded leader that you by nature be able to ascend over all of them because they're not focused on those things themselves, or they wouldn't be here.
Right.
They would be running their own business or doing something bigger. And so you always took it as, I said, look, it's a temporary situation unless you make it permanent.
Correct.
If you lower your ambitions, if you lower your attitude, if you become a victim of circumstances versus a student of the experience, the wisdom, and their engagement, so you can learn all that. And you know, and I wasn't short for words with those guys. I mean, you watch me bring outside executives in, put them in charge, and if they didn't go on the right line, then they didn't last either, right?
Yeah.